Hey, what's up? My name is PJ, and you are listening to the Music Photo Podcast, session number 17. What's up, pals? It's been a little while. It is so lovely to be on your ear holes once again. My name is PJ Pantelis. I'll be your host for today. You can find me on Twitter at PJPantelis. This episode is special for a number of reasons. Firstly, because I've been a little bit off my game lately. I haven't been posting much. This was from a little while back, and it features the very talented Tim Allen. Now, you may not recognize that name, particularly if you're not from Melbourne, but a few years ago, Tim was a real powerhouse in the local music photography scene. Particularly Tim, and this episode means a lot to me because before I got into music photography and before I got into photography in general, I used to look at Tim's photos and his style of shooting. I would look at his stuff and say, that's what I want to do. That's what I really want to be. So yeah, Tim was very much he was an inspiration to me, and I just used to follow his stuff very closely on MySpace. And yeah, when I received an email from him a couple of months ago, I was basically super chuffed. I remember a year or two now, I can't remember exactly what time, but it was quite some time ago. I reached out to him on Facebook, not on the personal page, but I sent a message to his photo page, just basically saying, I didn't want anything from the exchange, but I was just saying how much I appreciated his work and how much I had been following his stuff for ages, and probably something to do with the fact that I hadn't seen him post much music related stuff lately. But I basically just wanted to show him my appreciation. I can't remember what the reply was. It was something brief but appreciative, but to get a reply down the track, it meant a whole lot, and I'm so glad that I was able to have him on for this session. You're going to want to stick around until the very end of this one as we talk about things such as self-taught versus tertiary education. Tim has a really unique perspective on this because he's seen the best of both worlds. He was self-taught for a long time, and he's also studied at the college level. So he's got a really unique, interesting perspective on photography. Creative slumps and what to do to avoid them and what to do when you get them. This came at a really good time for me because I was in somewhat of a creative slump myself. So it was a very timely conversation. And we also talk about life after music photography because, like a lot of people, Tim started photography in very much involved in the music scene. But as he grew older and more mature, he has sort of diverged. He's moved away a little bit from music photography, but he's found some equally as fulfilling and rewarding, both financially and, creatively, ways to spend his photographic time. And yeah, he'll tell you all about it. As always, the show notes for this episode can be found at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. For now, enjoy this episode with Tim Allen. Tim Allen, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Thank you so much for having me, dude. We finally arranged it and worked out a time.
It's taken a little while, and it's been good, even just hitting you back on emails or whatever, because I think I would have sent you a message maybe on Facebook on your page or something, or maybe Tumblr, I can't remember. I'm going to say a year or two ago, just saying what's up, saying how much I appreciate your work, because I know 4 or 5 years ago when I was getting into this stuff, like I was looking at your photography and I can't even remember the other guys. Nicole Goodwin, maybe.
Oh yeah, Nicole, definitely.
I was looking at you guys and I was thinking that's what I want to do. So it's really cool to speak to you here, and yeah, I'm just so glad.
That means a lot. Thank you, dude. That seriously means a lot, and it's like you said, it like art takes time, like we need to warm up to things. Like the idea of it when we first started talking, I think like you were for it, and I can't believe like how quickly time flies. Because I remember when you messaged me, and like with anything, exchanges sometimes don't last ages, like you can sort of flick over things sometimes, but there's so much going on, and it's just really cool how you you're active, and I think that's that speaks volumes over anything. So yeah, how did you? I guess I got a question for you. Like,
Yeah, go
how did
for it.
you like find me? Because like now we're talking years ago for myself when I first sort of started doing music scene. I guess like what's in a way like I'll ask you a question. Like where'd you find me? Like what was I doing?
I was just always I played in bands as well, and I was just obsessed. Like, I don't know if you were a musician in your younger years,
A
but
little bit, yeah.
yeah, when you play in a band and you're a kid and you're 15 or 16, that's all you think about. That's literally your life. You can't wait for band practice, and you're always looking at gear, and you're always trying to book gigs and whatever, and you're just very aware of the local scene. And I just remember
Totally.
seeing at the time I thought it was Lee Photography because I obviously just didn't even read it, and it's like the Lee logo, but I found out that it was T Photography, and I found out that it was Tim Allen Photography, and I remember seeing the photos everywhere. I remember seeing lots of light trails,
Yeah.
lots of sepia. Probably I feel like that was a pretty trendy thing at the time. What else was everyone
Yeah.
doing? I can't remember.
Yeah, a lot of, I mean,
A lot of on camera flash.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Make sure you bounce that, but also direct is very important too.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? A few times I've tried to do the light trails, and there is a bit of skill involved. I can never just get it. I can never get the 2006 light trails. I can never perfect that.
That's cool you call it that because that's exactly what it was. I mean, I'm trying to think of why I started doing it. I think a freak chance when I was learning, just learning,
Yep.
and I was like, holy shit, that's really, really cool.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and this is a younger self of me that I'm talking of. We all change over time. What we like changes over time, whether it's photography or music, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Looking back to that, like that was just me in a nutshell. Like just wanting to learn about what the hell was going on. And like you said about playing music, it's exactly the same as me. Different bands, different mates, and I just wanted to take that somewhere else at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's where I found it right up in the front row instead of facing out.
Hmm.
And you know, uh, so many bizarre things, that I could never have imagined. Myself being involved with, and it's so cool to like we were saying before, like just to like flash back, a year, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
2006 light
Seriously.
trails.
That's 10
It's
years
cool.
ago. Holy shit, that's 10 years ago.
Well, it's 10. It's 10. It's 10 because we're
Wow.
reminiscing,
Yeah.
it's really bizarre to just like think about it. Sepia. I don't think you could find one image of mine recently that is sepia. I mean, you don't really see it anymore at all.
No.
I just can't. I can't. But that's cool. Things change.
Hey, that's what everyone
Everything's
did. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and there were other people doing that, and I think with the while we're on the light trail thing, I think like that was that was what I was doing at the time, and that's what attracted people, and it went away pretty quickly after 2006,
Whatever. Yeah.
7, 2000 and whatever. I think for the right reasons, for me especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to know, who were you looking at the time? Who were your photography idols?
Locally,
Yeah.
with music, definitely. James Hartley,
Of
100%.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Um, absolute hero. I've met the guy briefly a couple of times, but absolute hero of mine. Just the whole learning about the journey and like where it takes you, where it doesn't take you, who you meet, who you don't meet, can all be seen through his career. And just like you said, going to band prac and wanting to do all these things, it's all relative. With the photography, that's
Hmm.
what I wanted to do, and I I did that a little bit. I think that's where I started to realize what I wanted to do next at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely Hartley. He's as you would know, he's an absolute hero and awesome things, awesome new things as well all the time. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good. I
that's why.
I think I found out through forgot who it was. It might have been Max Fairclough. That Hartley has been living overseas for the past few years. Because
Yeah.
I remember seeing his photos all the time in those days, and I remember just thinking recently, like, this guy's just dropped off the planet. I couldn't find his stuff anywhere. I probably was looking at his stuff on MySpace
Yeah.
or whatever. But
Yeah. MySpace.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, he's moved on to bigger, better things overseas. Is he still doing music? I'm not too sure.
I'm pretty sure there are music gigs. Oh, look, I can't confirm. I check out everyone that I know as often as I can,
Yeah,
or everyone. Sorry, that sounds bizarre, but everyone that I've sort of followed previously, I
yep,
try and keep up with as much as I can, much like yourself. And I could say that I've seen a lot of fashion stuff that he's done. I'm certain that he's probably got some gigs on the side, and he might have traveled and stuff. So, and I think that's really cool. And I think he's probably doing exactly what he wants to be doing. And I'm super stoked for him. That's so cool that it's still a thing.
yeah,
It
excellent.
proves that what we're both doing ourselves here right now, much the same as anyone listening, just grind it out every day. Just tick something off, big or small, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It'll all equate to whatever it is that you'll end up doing. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, that's something I have to keep. I have to keep in mind. I have to remember that because sometimes you lose track. You're looking too
Oh
much at the
yeah,
big picture and you're not thinking about the day to day. Um,
yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of dropping off the face of the earth, I felt like I was following your music photography career very closely, and I haven't seen any music photos for you in years.
Yeah.
What have you been up
Um,
to in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years?
Look, a lot, man, a lot, and a lot of it's photography related. A lot of it's
Yep.
personally related. And I think it's important to address them separately. You want to make it all one thing, and that's sweet because it can be. I believe that too, but I found out that it's not, and I
Hmm.
think with um, everything else that you want to do in your life, things need to be put aside. And I really love music. That's my biggest inspiration, always has been. If I'm working on something, I'm listening to music. But um, I think I'd already done it for a while there, if that makes sense. I think I'd already completed what I'd initially went out to complete.
Yep.
And I was at that stage where I wanted to change it up. And it was hard for me, so much so that I had to sort of not only just slow down with the amount of music photography I was doing, but actually almost completely grind to a halt. And I did. There's no doubt about it. And I just wanted to pursue other things. There's one thing worth mentioning here is that I am completely self-taught way back from the day. Like I'm talking, I got my first camera when I was 10, family camera, sort of took it out for the day without my parents knowing sort of thing. Holy shit, I fucking love this. To then finding myself, once I graduated high school, that I was walking into a college called Photography Studies College in South Bank,
Yep.
where I spent a couple of years full time, worked out full time wasn't for me with everything else that I wanted to do. I wanted to earn some money, not just from photography, but just earn money. I wanted to experience other things, so I took a year off, year and a half actually, and actually finished up the last 2 years just last year. So it's a great relief, and
Congratulations.
thank you, man. It's huge. It
It
really
is.
is
It really
huge
is.
because there's a lot of dudes out there and chicks out there who don't choose the study path, and I totally warrant that. I totally warrant it. Like I said, I was sort of self-taught, not by actively teaching myself, but just doing it,
Yep.
just doing,
Hmm.
just doing it, and you hear it over and over again. But I have also taken the education path too. So now I can really weigh up both of them, and they've both got huge advantages. I can't doubt either of them. But that's what brings me here, and of late, that's what I've been doing.
Hmm.
If you've seen any of my work recently, that is what I've been doing. I've been taking some time out at the same time. I've been shooting, basically,
Yeah.
getting out there. I think it's a really, to me, it's almost quite obvious what I wanted to be doing while I wasn't shooting music. I
Okay.
wanted to be out and about. I wanted to be, just being by myself for a while, learning about myself, almost irrelevant from photography in a way. I just wanted to work out what was going on, growing. And I've always been involved with photography in one way or another. This is where I wanted to go next.
Well, that it's definitely something that resonates a lot with me. I've been self-taught myself
Hmm.
all the way through, and not necessarily by choice. It's mainly because I just picked it up too late in my life. When I was already in a business degree, I'd already finished high school, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But hey, no complaints there. I think you have well and truly got the best of both worlds, because too many people that I see that have been too too heavily taught by institutions, they find it hard to find their own voice through their photos, and
Oh, yeah.
they end up with the put in the press and with the formula from their course, like
Dude, if
RMIT
I,
or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I relate it to music, and I think I'm that way with my music. I was too institutionally taught how to
Okay.
play drums, and now I don't know how to teach myself drums because I never had to. So
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
stopped playing all the time, my playing just went way down. But having said that, friends of mine who were self taught all the way, they can learn a new song in 10 minutes, and they can, they're just got on the up and up. But they, it's a different style of learning. But I think
Yeah.
that there's definitely something to be said about having to learn and having the motivation to learn by yourself. And if you can do
Yep.
that first, like, I think you've well and truly got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, oh, dude, and I feel I don't want to take that for granted either. I can't go without saying that I've had a huge support from my family and friends. I mean, there's been so many times, both financially but also emotionally, even to the more physical parts where people have, lent me equipment. It all counts, even if I've done something that hasn't been published. That shoot that I did with them means a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also brought me here. So yeah, look, man, all I can say is I can see a drum kit in the background there tonight. You're having a jam.
Yeah,
You're having a
cheers,
jam.
man. Yeah, I've got the electric kit in there now, so every now and then when I've sat too long in my chair, I just go and have a play. But I just mean, like, yeah, I don't constantly improve. Obviously, it's not my number one passion anymore, but that's just my little photography analogy for learning, at least.
Yeah, that's cool. Nah, I completely agree, man.
Yeah. I'm actually really curious to know about your time at PSC. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, PSC. Yeah.
Um, because I do have a couple of other friends that have come out of there, and I'm really curious to know what they teach you about editing, because there's two guys in particular. Do you know Jack Bleasdale by any chance?
Jack who?
Bleasdale?
I don't. Sorry,
Okay,
no,
he might
no, it
have been a
doesn't ring
bit
a bell.
before you, but anyway,
Okay.
there's a couple of guys that I know that sort of helped me. They fielded a lot of my very worst, most newbie questions when I started,
Okay.
and they
Okay.
learn at PSC, and they have this really clean, crisp, nice editing style. I'm curious to
Hmm.
know, did you learn anything about post, or like what do they teach you in post at college?
The post is, I mean, look, like any sort of course, it advances over the years. First year is very, that's the Photoshop icon. This is a new document. This is the fill area. So on and so forth. Marquee, you get that. Second, third year is more about controlling your color and contrast, um, learning how to correctly spot an image. For print, everything is for print. You submit a lot of work you submit it all digitally, and
Yep.
it's just reviewed on a projector, but with intent for it to be printed. So everything is 16-bit TIFFs. Everything is so the blacks are always printing perfectly. Um, everything's 300 DPI at least. You name it. It's more about your organization, your layer management, file management in general, naming structures, everything like that is drilled into you. And then they go with everything else that you've learned there in terms of your inspiration. They go, now show us what you can do with what we've taught you. That's basically it.
Right.
That's what I sort of experienced. Having said that, I'm pretty, like we were saying before, I've come from sort of self-taught before even going there.
Yep.
Through high school, really interested in just, that's when YouTube was really kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
People were sharing ideas. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, why are these people doing this? But that's what people do. That's what, we want to connect, we want to share. And this is what I was absorbing. And basically, oh shit, this might be your first cut because I've completely lost my track.
Cool, man. Just the progression of learning your edits through college, picking it up through YouTube at your own pace before you went there.
Yeah.
How did your style change from the start of your course to the end? Maybe that's an easy path to take.
Definitely. So I was already shooting RAW way back when I was doing music photography. Early on was JPEG, and I regretted that, but you learn from it like anything. Editing went from strictly with the JPEGs from just straight into Photoshop. Bit of this, bit of that, bit of sharpen, upload. Then into a really once going into PSC, like I said, going into a really structured form. In terms of how it evolved, managing color spaces, I suppose, and actually not just managing them in general, but actually learning what they do and what they mean for web, what they mean for print, what they mean for print on matte paper, what they mean for print on gloss paper, what they mean for print in a magazine, behind glass, behind perspex. They really were about using the computer as though it was darkroom techniques. They didn't want it to be, oh, you're using Photoshop, let's show the world how much Photoshop you can use. It was everything you see here you can do in the darkroom except for X, X, and X, which is half the internet these days.
Okay, right.
And they're cool with that. There's some really inspirational people that I've met, both mentors, tutors, and things like that at PSC, and a lot of them are students too.
Okay.
Past students, current students. It really comes back to that whole collaboration thing, sharing ideas, and I think one thing I can take from learning all these things in this Photoshop environment in the digital darkroom is that it's really collaborative, and that's the most important thing you can learn is that everything can be shared if you want it to be shared. I mean, it's you can hold all the information, but sort of like what's the point?
Yeah.
I feel like I can admit that I wanted to keep my techniques, but I figured that I've learnt them from someone else. So like, what was I trying to achieve? And that's really also shaped the way that I do things these days as well.
Yeah, that's something that I really appreciate as well, because I mentioned those guys before that would field those bad questions from me. Not everyone would, because I think it's pretty outdated now. I don't think there's too many people like this these days, but too many people were trying to guide their secrets as if there was one thing that was going to ruin them and have someone steal all their jobs and expose them as a fraud or something. But if there's one thing keeping it together, then like what's the point? You're not a photographer.
Yeah. I'll be the first to admit that through my music photography career, that I was one of those people, and I am not proud of that whatsoever. But I think that's a part of what I've learned by changing what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And now I'm actually now involved back in the scene, not on a big scale, but I'm back in working with artists, working with musicians. different stuff, not so much live stuff. I think, like I said, I've done that. I'd love to get back into it, but I think that there is a huge amount of people doing it now, and that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yep.
And I think there are more people doing it behind the photographers as well that are doing just as good a job, which is a whole nother topic in itself.
Okay.
But what I'm really looking forward to doing is exploring my own creativity with photography now that I've gone through another cycle, moving on to now my next chapter, like what is next. And I want to get back into the music thing in whatever shape or form. It doesn't have to be, metal bands like I sort of used to do. It can, I'm working with a band at the moment that's doing like indie rock, and they're so sweet. They've given me an opportunity to do a video, and I'm really looking forward to punching that out, getting back into video, but also artwork. I mean, that's where I started. So
yeah, beautiful, man. Well, maybe something that I'm coming to associate with your work these days is these incredible shops. I was actually looking on your Redbubble earlier.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a big canvas piece to go above my bed. I wanted to shoot it myself, but I just am never happy enough with something that I've shot. But anyway, there's what did you call them? Aerial shots? Are they from a
I'm just
drone,
calling them
helicopter?
aerial.
What?
Mainly helicopter.
Yeah.
Mainly. The drone thing is huge, no question about it. But I've spent a lot of my last 2 years in a helicopter. Not a lot. Wow. That's wrong. More often than I would have ever before. Basically, a good week would be 2 hours in the sky, which is plenty of time to shoot some incredible stuff. And I'm really fortunate to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So for anyone listening that hasn't seen them, and I'll put a link to it in the blog post in the show notes. They're just these sort of, it's out of the context that you usually would see these places. So there's just these crazy textures, and what I can really appreciate about the photos is every picture has its own like color theme. Like there's maybe 3 or 4 main colors to the photo, and it really, it turns it into a piece of fine art instead of a photography of a paddock and a car park, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's a really, really cool summary that you've come up with there. I think that that's exactly what it's not meant to be something that's meant to be intimidating. It's not meant to, it's meant to, like any art does, evoke an idea. It's meant to, you're meant to ask yourself a question. What is it? Where is it? At the same time, it doesn't matter. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I really like to do at the moment.
Is that purely a personal project, or is that some sort of job for you?
Bit of both. I'm doing some contract work, doing real estate photography, basically, mainly for commercial real estate. Where I basically go up in the air, take a series of images looking, for anyone that lives in Melbourne would know, down the East Link, down the Monash, looking back to the city. There's so much development going on, so much property being sold, demolishment, getting ready for the next development to go up. Always happening, and there's always somebody wanting to sell, and that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
Interesting. That's, I'm always fascinated when someone finds outside of their norm, maybe outside of the comfort zone. If you grew up doing music, if someone can find a day job in photography. Do you know what I mean? Like something that maybe is not, it wasn't your original intention, but you can find a solid, consistent stream of income in photography.
Oh, you said it, man. You said it. I mean, there is no way. I can give you the story. Basically, what happened, I was living in a share house in Mount Waverley a few years back now with a group of mates. One of my best mates, Dill, he had to move home, wanted to focus on study and stuff like that. Fair call. We got a new housemate in, and he was a pilot. And it's kind of like, in one way, you kind of go, I really don't just want to accept this guy because he's a pilot, but that's really fucking cool. And he was a sweet dude, regardless. Like he was someone you wanted to live with anyway. And 3 or 4 months down the track after living with him, he was still studying, and he's like, I want to take you guys for a fly. I went once with a good mate of mine, Darren, who's also a photographer.
Oh, Darren
Um,
Keane.
Darren Kane,
Yeah,
Darren
yeah.
Kane, smashing it,
I forgot you
loving it.
guys live together. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We don't see each other much anymore. Life just puts you in that position. But a really sweet dude. I went to high school with him, so we go back a long way.
Did you go to Caulfield?
Caulfield, Wills Hill, yeah, yep,
Do you
yep.
know? Well, I think we have more mutual friends then. Anyway, we'll talk
Yeah,
about that
here we
later.
go.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry,
Here we
man.
go.
Sorry to
That's
take you
right.
off topic. Yeah, go on.
That's okay. I was going along the lines of met this sweet dude called Nick Havel, and he's is a at the time pilot training. Lucky guy. He does he takes people up to skydive in the Philippines, doing drop zones for affected areas. Like, isn't that just the coolest thing you've ever heard?
That is
Um,
like, yeah, that's unreal.
but
That's
he flew
action man stuff.
planes. Yeah, exactly. And I can't. It's pretty cool. I still can't believe it. But he gave me a really sweet opportunity. I'm a dude with a camera who likes to take photos and of things I do in my personal life as well. And there I went, and we went off. Me and Daz and Nick went for a flight, and we just did a city orbit, and back down to from Tayab Airport round to around the city, just like a scenic flight.
Mm-hmm.
Couple months later, I sort of had a few shots that I liked, but I already knew that like there was just more. There was just more to have, more to There's always more,
Mm-hmm.
So we went on another flight. I was, boy, man, I really want to go here. I want to go here. And I was showing him on the map. He's like, all right, we get it. So we went. We went down to Wilson's Prom. Really marshy landscape. If anyone's been down there, sand, beach, mountains, water, this, that, the other. It doesn't matter. It's all there, nature-wise. And I put together a couple of series. Called Terra Firma. Some people might have seen it, others not. And it really just this is all in one flight. I took all these images in one flight, and
Wow.
I presented it. I presented it in one of my folio classes at PSC, and the guy at the time, Neil Stainer, who is a absolute god, photography god. No, he's from a different time, so you can't really find out much about him. But
Right.
he exists, and he's just he's unbelievable. But I respect him so much, and hearing something good come out of someone's mouth like that, it's just like, wow, I think I'm onto something new here. And I presented that folio, even though it's nothing to do with real estate. I presented that folio to this company that I work for, and they liked it enough to employ me, and I work there today.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
You've blown my mind that all those photos were in one flight, because to be honest, when I look through your website at the series, it looks like it was taken over the course of 6 months or something.
yeah. It was. It's one of those things that you're out there shooting. It doesn't matter what, macro photography, lifestyle, whatever. It's all happening. It's all just happening at once. You're loving what you're doing. You're feeling it. You're driving the camera. You're talking to people, having a laugh. Everyone's quiet for a while. Doesn't matter. But it was all happening, and bam, we've landed. It's over, and now all I've got to show are these images. And I couldn't believe that I could actually shoot a folio in one shoot of that style of photography. I never knew that was a thing, and that really showed me that from everything that I've learned before and after going to school for photography, that that's one way to shoot, or you can shoot over a year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Especially. I can just really appreciate the fact that you didn't know the photos were there until you were there. You hadn't done that sort of thing before, but you just get that feeling, I guess. The moment presents itself, and you can either take full advantage of it or you can miss it. And obviously that separates the boys from the men.
Yeah, totally. That's cool.
A bit of a random one. Did you use a lot of
Hmm.
Flickr back in the
I
day?
did use Flickr back in the day, and I have recently pulled it down. Just stopped. What was my main reasoning? The community was pretty awesome back in the day.
Yeah.
It really dropped off 5 years ago. They really vamped up the look and the features and this and that. But like anything, if the community is at a low, it pulls the whole thing down. And only just a couple of months ago, I pulled it down. I sort of looked around at my other um, other sort of aspiring photographers that I sort of relate to and see what they're doing, and they're not using it, and I hate to be the sheep, but I decided to join them. Um, it's really with no, I think with there's so much social media out there, to manage another one where you're not really getting much back, but you're putting everything you've got into it is you're looking for a two-way street, but it's just a highway to nowhere, and I think it sucks, but it's just the honest truth. And there's a lot of sweet photographers that use it. No discredit to them, but it's the community as a whole that really sort of let me down. It's not the quantity that I didn't receive; it was the quality all the way, and it sucked. It really sucks to say because it was up there for a long time. I think what's more important to say is my photography was first inspired by a website called DeviantArt
Oh, yep.
way, way back before I even had a chance to hold a camera, before I had a chance to work out like if it was photography that I really wanted to do or if it was drawing. I was really into drawing and other, creative arts, and that's still evident today. I sort of try and involve that in other projects, but DeviantArt, I moved on from that site too. Same
Sure.
deal.
Yeah.
Quality went down, volume went up, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I find that so interesting because this is something that I've been struggling with for a little while. As much as I don't do what I do for attention or for
Mm-hmm.
validation, sometimes there needs to
Yep.
be something, some sign, there needs to be some sort of appreciation, which is why I've
Yeah.
always tried to, a couple of years ago when I hit you up, I didn't really
Yep.
want anything out of that exchange. I just wanted you to
Yeah.
know that you had inspired me. And every time there's a podcast or a photographer or a musician that I really admire, I make sure that I just show a little bit of appreciation because
That's
it
really
doesn't
cool.
cost me anything. But
Yeah.
man, I can't even think of how many bands or photographers or whoever would still be doing what they were doing and not giving up if maybe just a few more people had done a similar thing.
Exactly, man. I think it what you're saying there also really resonates with how newer social media works, where it's so quick there isn't even a chance for you to get any decent feedback anymore. The rate of how we absorb information, is still there. You said that you've seen my images, for example. You said that you told me what it was, this, that. But in terms of, the like, it's not competition, but the other people out there also doing it, also working in that space, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, the volume is
The noise,
just
right?
the noise, and that's fine. Every area, every topic needs a voice. Everything needs to be addressed. That's fine, but there's so much of it that there's no. I think Facebook tried to do it. Twitter's tried to do it. They've tried to sort of knock out the things that you're not interested in or that you are interested in, and that's cool. But I found that like we were briefly talking earlier on about Facebook, I'm not actually finding out what my friends are doing anymore. I'm finding out what my acquaintances are doing, and that's cool that they're getting married and having kids. But my my parents, are also on there, and that's really cool. But it's a different place now. Social media is a different place, and I
Yeah.
think that you always need to keep a clean presence and stuff like that these days. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect or anything like that, but I think that you really do, even if it's for a job interview, or you just want a girl to really like you, or it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter at all. Just everything can be affected by what you put out there, what you put down, and that's at your choice. You
Yeah,
choose to
yeah.
do that. You choose every single time, even if you're unaware of it. I'm sorry, but you still chose to do that. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I'm completely fascinated with this stuff, and like you said about Flickr and moving on from Flickr and the clutter of Facebook and whatever, um, everyone's everyone's trying to build the next Facebook or the next Snapchat or whatever, right? Everyone's coming out with all these new things. A couple of weeks ago, I went on a bit of a rant on Facebook, and I got really behind this platform called Ello. I've kind of been trying to champion this new platform, Ello.
Is this the camera phone in the hand or something like that?
Oh no, that's a
And
different one.
you
I've heard of that though.
beam,
Be
beam,
me, be me.
be me. We can talk
Yeah.
about that later. But what's
Okay.
this one? Tell me about
Yeah.
this.
Oh, look, Ello, it's fantastic, right? It looks like a Tumblr feed basically, but it's
Yeah.
more social. But sorry, yeah. So I went on this rant, and
Yep.
everyone sort of got on board. It was great. For some reason, everyone wants change, so everyone was on the same page. And in a day, probably 150 mates jumped on, and we had this great little community on Ello for a little while. But
Okay.
once the hype wears off and everyone dies down a little bit, everyone goes a little bit more quiet, it's another thing to update, like you said. And I think we're getting sick of that, because I look through the little social apps folder on my iPhone, and there's like about 12 now or something. Like
Yeah.
it's just too much.
It's
I
another
think
new toy.
that's
It's
it.
another new toy, and it's Christmas, and that's cool. Christmas comes a fair few times a year now.
Yeah.
With different things depending on what your interests are. A lot of people are obviously into the whole app thing, and I'm right on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right in terms of the social media thing. It's just another toy, and a week later, that red fire truck that you got for your 10th birthday or your 10th Christmas or whatever, or your Barbie doll, whatever, your 10th this. A week later, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Something's happened in the world mid that week, the end of that week. Something's going to happen next week that affects what you're doing in your own life, or what's happening out in the world. So I think, it's weird. There are so many apps in terms of social media apps out there, and you choose what you can give your time to. I
Yeah.
couldn't give more time to more things anymore. I wanted to get back to some of the things like my loved ones, and just stuff like that. Just real life,
Yeah,
real
absolutely.
social life stuff.
Tangible
Yes, like
things. Yeah.
tangible things.
Yeah. Well, I
And also
think,
bills, unfortunately, bills.
well, they come in as well. Um, yeah, I think a big part of my issues of the last 6 to 12 months have come from just trying to do too many things and not doing any of them well. Because
Yeah.
I've sort of just made all these like promises to myself and tried to upkeep all these things. Like, start of the year, my focus was YouTube. Last year was the podcast. Start of the year was YouTube, and I was uploading one video a day to YouTube. I got
Wow.
I got
Wow,
about
that's a lot of
Yeah,
effort,
yeah,
dude.
dude. I got about 20 days in a row, and it was going great. Then I went on tour, came back, and I haven't done a video since in the last 3 months, because there's 100 other things that I'm trying to do, and I just
Yeah.
need to remind myself sometimes that you need to pick one or two and do them really well, rather than do a really poor job of all of them.
Yeah. This, like, having like a portable computer in our pocket makes us feel like we're superhuman, but the truth is that our bodies aren't. It just, we think that we can, and we have the power to do that. We've worked out how to roll through the punches, do this, do that really quickly, send this out, receive this, so you can do that, get back to grandma, get onto this, get onto that. You can do a crazy amount every day these days, and
Yeah.
you'll be able to do more and more in the future anyway. So there's a level of working out how
It's a
much do you need
slippery
right
slope.
now. Yeah, how much do you need right now if you're going to be able to do more in the future anyway? So
Um, just back to Flickr quickly.
yeah.
The reason I bring it up is because I know Flickr had a big impact on my photography
Mm,
probably in the first 6 months of having my first DSLR. Um,
yeah.
yeah, my friend Jack, who I mentioned earlier, he told me get on there and just start posting your photos on there. Um, Basically, it's a record. It's like a, what do you call it? Chronological record of my
Mm,
photography, which I really
yeah.
appreciated, but also the inspiration that I get from other people. When I think about my photography over the last few years, my main thing has been band promos. There's like
Yeah.
a few photos that I can see in my head still that are the ones that have really influenced my style. There's people
Yeah.
like, obviously there's, your El Machias's. Do you know, are you aware of a
Yeah.
guy called Evan Dell from Florida, I think? He was
Rings a bell,
one of those
definitely.
big Flickr
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And uh, actually, one photo that really comes to mind is one of yours, of Storm the
Oh, wow.
Sky at that, like, it's like a timber yard or something.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Yeah.
Anyway, that
Wow.
style is what I tried to make my style. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, who can you remember some of the big Flickr dudes that you used to follow back in the day that possibly have shaped your career?
Definitely. I'll give a couple, maybe a few. Not even necessarily music related, but Dave Hill Photo.
Oh yeah,
Huge photo manipulator, more like commercial ad campaigns, really, really
the king of
high photo
HDR.
manipulation. King of HDR, that's it. I'm not a big buy-in on the HDR component, but the compositioning and stuff like that, that's right up my alley. Someone else would be Adam Elmakias, huge influence when he's come out. I've always met up with him, let him stay at my place, helped out
Nice.
because he's a huge inspiration. Not just photographically, he's a really good people person, and I learnt that from him. Doesn't matter who you are; it just matters like how you how you want to work with people. You can be as nice or as shit as you want, but you want to get you're actually when you're taking a photo, for example, you're taking something from somewhere, whether it's a person or a place, so you've got to honor that and respect that, and I've definitely learnt that from him.
Okay,
um, there's another name that just eludes me right now,
that's okay. If you
but very
remember, we'll chuck it in the show notes later.
yeah, cool.
So when did it sort of change for you? Can you think of a time when your focus sort of shifted away from music towards whatever else was drawing you in creatively?
Yeah, in terms of changing from one career to another, in mine being music to landscape photography, I think it became a lot more personal. And I think it was easy to ignore that for some kind of recognition online. That was a huge thing back on MySpace. I think it was a new thing, getting like a new comment, new message, new this, new that. It was something new. It was
Yeah.
new. It was new of new of new. And
It's a little hit of dopamine, right, in the brain.
oh, that's it. And I think I can honestly say that that's it's like a modern day addiction. It's a modern day drug. We're sitting in front of a bright screen. We're getting what we want. We're making things happen. If I didn't do this, then this didn't happen. And now our world is completely built on that. So, in terms of changing, for anyone who wants to, the cliche thing would to be just get out there and do it. But what I would say is actually take some time away from all of what you're doing, even if you're shooting models, shooting food,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. Take some time away. Do I really want to leave it for a while? Do I want to come back in a month's time? Do I want to come back in a year? So on and so forth. I think time away from all of it will help you realize not just flicking into the next topic. Sometimes it comes without even noticing. You can just be holding your camera in a place that you don't usually go to. Excuse me. And holy shit, I'm really into fashion photography now. That guy's wearing a sweet jacket up against that wall. Hopefully it's not a brick wall with graffiti, but
I still get that email. You would not believe it. I still get that email.
yeah,
Hey man,
it
can you
happens.
come take photo of us at the graffiti wall in the city?
Yeah, yeah, and it's just not. I think one thing I learned about the music scene as well that helped me figure it out was that I wanted to put my name next to everything I did, and when it got to the point where I was doing things for bands that I didn't want to put next to my name,
right?
It really, really tick the box for, am I doing what I want to do, or am I doing it for these guys? And that's cool. I was earning money doing it. I'd never really earned money doing photography before this, but it just didn't weigh up. I figured that I could still earn money. Sorry, I could still earn money working at Safeway, working in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes, as shit as that might sound, but there's a certain lifestyle attached to it, and you got a whole different exposure to different people, different lifestyles, and I figured that I wanted to take a break. I did that. I worked in hospitality for a while, and that's cool. I've done that for a bit now, and I was still shooting. I that's the other thing. I did say what I said about stopping, and I stopped for a while, maybe 6 months. And I just did my own thing. I learned. I definitely still looked up photography and this and that, but I stopped shooting. I'm a big advocate of shooting at least every second day. And if I'm not shooting, something's up. I get the jitters, I'm just trying to reiterate that it's all different for everyone, and I think that taking that 6 months off really, really actually developed me. It wasn't wasted time.
Okay.
Sure, days definitely went by where I was just like, oh, I really want to go shooting, but I did tell myself that I was going to have a break for a while. And I'd pick up my camera and I'd go out, even just for a walk or something like that. And I was just like, no. I should stop. Yeah, I wasn't feeling it, and I think I just didn't want to force it because it's not a chore. I don't want what I do to be a chore. It's fun. It's something I enjoy, and not many people get that. And I want to honor that. I want to honor the fact that what I get to do, or what I want to do, and what I've chosen to do is actually a privilege, and it should never become a chore. I think I see that a bit with different photographers. I can't really think of a name right now, but you sort of see it. You sort of see the
cycle.
Let me give you a basic example of a photographer with their girlfriend standing in the middle of the frame in front of a lake, on a holiday, sweet holiday, time of a life, young love. It's all happening.
Yeah.
Beautiful colors, beautiful light. You're looking at it on your Instagram or whatever, and you're like, holy fucking shit, I wish I was there right now.
Right.
But you take a moment and you go, well, is this real? Like, it's not, but it is, but it's also not. And I think that, it's a strange thing because it motivates me to go shoot, but it motivates me to do something different.
Right.
I see straight through it, unfortunately, and it's very popular to have that very structured style that I was talking about. It's like it's a chore. Well, it's not just a chore, but it's just very.
There's a little bit of a formula to it almost.
That's what I'm trying to come up with. It's a formula. It's an algorithm, and there's a detail shot they throw in there, and then there's a couple of wides, and then there's an aerial shot, and then a couple of their girlfriend in a tent and drinking a soup, and that's really they're really sweet moments, and I think they're connecting with a different group of people. They're connecting with non-photographers. I think my photography is always connected with other photographers. And I think it's not more important. I think it's just it helps me develop. Um, Having people who don't do photography like my photography is mind blowing, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I find that credible because, for example, I don't go out of my way to read poetry, but I listen to a lot of music. It's sort of one hand on the other.
Yep.
So when I'm saying that I go out of my way, or sorry, not go out of my way, when I say that I like to connect with other photographers, or I hope that they like my work, that's how I develop. Um, the rest, anything that I put out, there's a lot that I don't because I'm not happy with it. Like it's the bane of our universe, but that's just how it is. But
Mm-hmm.
the people who, like I said, that um, don't shoot, it's just it's something else. Something else.
Okay. So if there was someone, like I'm sure you've been through it, like I've been with it, through it, and I think just about any creative person does the same. If someone's going through this sort of slump where they find themselves doing the work or doing making the pictures that they wanted to make, but just going through the motions doing it, what
Yeah.
could you say? Is it literally a matter of step away, look for somewhere else in your life to find that sort of inspiration, or what
Yeah.
can
I
you
mean,
do to get that spark back?
yeah.
It's a hard question.
Again,
I'm sorry to dump
yeah,
that on you.
very. Very, and I don't want to be responsible for anyone throwing away their photography for a while. Like I think again, I really need to reiterate it's different for everyone. Some people will hear this and probably think like, well, there's no way I'll throw it away, and that's good. That's really good. I'm no way saying that you should stop. I think I'm just trying to talk about if you have thought about going from one main subject to another, I think it warrants some time, and that's my career thus far.
Yep.
And I hope that I do have more of these, big blocks, these big chapters. Things change. Your circumstances change. You find yourself in different places, different times. Um, and I just say go for it. If it feels right, do it. If it doesn't, don't force it. Your photos will be shit. I can tell you now. Like if you're not feeling it, you're not shooting what you want. Don't overshoot. Don't undershoot, but definitely don't overshoot. I huge on that. I remember, if I can think back to like a few band shoots, like, oh, can we have a look at the photos? Well, first thing is I really don't like showing the photos on shoot.
Okay.
That's different
That's
again for
interesting.
everyone. Second is, well, basically, just a quick note on that. If they have hired me to shoot for them, a part of that is like a two-way street of trust. And if they don't trust that they're good, um, it doesn't feel very good for me, basically. And I see that they might be really interested in what I've done and they want to know that it looks good. That's a fair call, but it comes more of like a trust thing. Like I'm trying to work like efficiently here. Like I want to get really awesome shots. Once three guys start walking towards me of a five dude setup, and now the whole thing's like the whole feng shui of the whole set is gone.
Right.
And then I want to, like, I was almost there with it and it's gone. It's gone, but not because I told them to come forward and have a look at the photo they wanted to.
Right.
But in doing that, it removed that me getting the right shot, trying to not shoot too much.
Okay.
So
I
it's just
Yeah. I was going to say, I definitely think there's something to be said about, like, I feel like part of the job, okay, a big part of a photographer's job in that situation is, first of all, problem solving. You have to
Mhm.
work out in that setting how to get the lighting and the poses and whatever working in that situation, right? Because every situation is different. But also, I feel like it's part of your job to be almost like a psychologist. You almost have to like coach the client through it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like people are just, it's an unnatural thing, right? To have the camera pointed at you. So I actually find it really helps me to early on set something up for a quick win,
Yep.
Put the lights
Yep.
in a way that's gonna kind
Yep.
of wow them just to begin with.
Yep.
Give them a look at the back of the screen, and then I've got their trust from then on in.
That's, again, it's so objective, man. Photography is the most objective thing ever. There's this way to do it. There's that way to do it. My personality is a bit different to yours,
Okay.
and in that, I think that we've both got our own perks just as much as the guys next to us. But
Right.
it's what again. It comes back to like what feels right.
Mm-hmm.
In that context, it didn't feel right, but definitely wowing your client. I mean, that is ideal on set. You don't want them feeling like you don't trust them, and it's not that I don't trust them when they do see my shot
Yeah.
on set. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not spoiling what I could have done.
Okay.
I think managing a single model or a single artist, getting to know them without the camera first is like one way to do it, and then meeting them for a shoot. But then there's a lot of bands these days. We're getting 5 dudes together in one spot at this time of day. There's a guy running late. His girlfriend's broken down a car or this or that. There's so many life things
It's a hassle.
that it's a hassle. And I've definitely learnt to like just accept. Like, there's really not much that sort of bothers me if a shoot runs late because of my client. I'm actually not really that concerned. I respect that. There's something that's come up in their life that they need to sort out before they can be here. Simple.
Yeah.
I never book anything too close together because things always go over time. Always. Even if it's just driving between a location.
Right.
Doesn't matter. So where I was going with that whole trust thing, showing them a shot on set, location, whatever. I suppose I've just felt like I've already been at the point where they've seen my work, they've reached out to get my services.
Yep.
There's a bit in between there and there that I figured that they trust me already. And like I said, with managing 5 dudes or 5 people on set, and then like I said, those 2 people walk out because they really want to see the shot. That's awesome. But it takes a level of managing these 2 people separately, because they both need to be managed separately, as well as those other 3 people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've got a manager there, if you've got a mate there, if you've got a couple of girlfriends there, it all happens. You're trying to get them the best shots, and there's always other things going on. And I think that I just, with my shoots back in the day and today, I just try and mitigate like different things that don't need to happen. I'm not looking to manipulate the situation, but I'm an advocate of the camera being a fly on the wall. Like, anyone can drive it. So
that's the hardest part, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to get the moments that look like it's not a moment. You want to get the moments that look like you're not even there, basically. But I think it's really interesting where you took that, because I thought you were going to say you don't want to show them the back of the camera because the photo is not at its full potential, because you're not ready to. It's not a finished product, right? But I think where you were really going, maybe that's part of it, but I think where you were really going was, we haven't even reached that moment yet, and you're already breaking the concentration. Is that fair to say?
True. I'm talking about, let's hypothetical, you've organized 1 hour with these guys. You're 20 minutes in, but technically you're only 10 minutes in because you've just got the lights ready.
Yeah.
Like it all happens. We need time to set up. We're not all just going to rock up and it's just bang on.
Absolutely.
But when you get there, and 5-10 minutes in, after you've finally got the lights ready, we've got people like phones ringing, things like that, distractions in terms of not just the guys, I keep saying guys, but it doesn't matter who it is if you're working with models or, but in terms of band situation, 5 dudes having an in-joke between them, you capture that moment, but it still sometimes doesn't even feel right. You want to give your spin on them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's such a confusing thing. I still think that you want to remain fly on the wall. So you want to create a moment, capture the moment, but it also represent them and yourself at the same time, because you put it next to your name as well as their name. And it's a really, it's, it's all just like a balancing act. You just want to keep, ebb and flow. You want to keep it just like your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. And
That's
that's
the
where,
that's the crux of it, though, right? Because I feel like that's the most challenging thing, especially if it's your first time meeting four of these dudes or, the band. I know from my experiences that the real magic comes in the second or third shoot because,
yeah,
you can do,
my,
yeah, I just forget sometimes. I forget that I'm trying to catch people and the way they are together and the essence rather than just lighting, sticking people, angling them
yeah,
and lighting them.
yeah,
Sometimes I forget about
yeah.
that.
And sometimes you've got to be the personality on set, and then you rock up and you realize that this band doesn't need that. They're already got the personality.
Yeah.
Other bands, they're quieter, they're younger, or something like that, and you need to just fire them up. Like you said, you need to like play the role of like a psychologist
Yeah,
or a
absolutely. You got
counselor
to
or something
coach
like
them.
that. Coach them,
Yeah.
have a laugh, and then bring them back down. Get the serious shot, bring them back up, bring them right up, and then give them a slap on the face. You know what I mean? Like, maybe like just chuck a dagger out there at someone. An in joke. It
Yeah.
can be friendly fire.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
friendly fire. We're all creative people in this sort of realm, and I think that we should be almost like you said, coaching each other in different like social environments. Like, oh, let's have a laugh at the drummer because X this, or let's have a laugh at this because this just happened before we started shooting. I think
Hmm.
you got to use those vibes right the way through your shoot to get the best outcome possible.
It's really interesting. The first example that comes to mind was a shoot that I did last week, and the
Oh yeah,
band is they're, I mean, reasonably new, but they've all played in sort of established bands in the past, so they all kind of know what they're doing. And
yeah,
they had tried to do some promos on their own. They had bought a band camera and they tried to take some promos in one of their apartments. And do you know what?
yeah.
Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. And I had a look at it and I was like, I was, summing it up in my head. I was like, this is sort of like 80% there, but it's that extra 20% that is just, that's the whole difference. It's like if you make a record and you, this is just the first thing come to mind. If you make a record and you get it mastered, mixed and mastered at the jam tin, that's going to be different than if you send it overseas to whoever,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's just that extra bit that makes all the difference when you're looking at two portfolios, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And one thing I'd say to that is just it. You can't own the responsibility of how they value your photography. That's for them.
Yeah.
If you've been, let's just even say that on a different spin of that story, let's just say that they came to you first and then realized halfway through, before the shoot even happened, that they went and bought this camera, and then they decided to do that after.
Oh, right. Yeah,
How
yeah.
just imagine that for a moment. I'm just trying to go from the point of view of like, well, the instant thought there is like that's a bit insulting, but again, you value your own work as much as you do, but they could never understand how much you would value your work, how you represent your work, how much time and effort you put into it. The only way to connect with that is to talk to an artist about their music,
Yeah.
and you've got to tell them how much it has affected you. And they get like a little, some of them like don't know what to say, some of them jump in excitement, some of them ask about like, oh, like why, it's all different. And you've got to look back on that same example, why they didn't, or if they didn't want to take you on and they did decide to go with this really bizarre avenue of buying their own camera. It's because they see it, their photography or their video, a different, it has a different value to them. And especially for five dudes to come up with $250, $500, $750, $1,000, whatever you're going to charge, and way up there, as we all know. It doesn't matter how much you put into it. What you put into it is the outcome that you get.
Yeah.
You know, a band puts $250 down. It's totally fine. It's a quick gig, and that's fine. And the images are awesome. They put down $250. A band throws down 1,000 or 1,000, 2,000, doesn't matter, and they get a whole lot more images, let's say, for that value.
Right.
But now there's way more. There's way more to compare that one best image to, when you could have supplied 3 or 4 really decent images, 6, 7, or 8 images. And now that one really decent image doesn't stand out at all. And that, I think that takes it somewhere else. I get that, but I think it just definitely comes back to how you value your work. Is my work worth sending a proof sheet of 300 images? Is my work valued at sending 20 and they choose 5? You've really got to weigh up. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't. I don't think it should affect the amount of money. That's different. I think it's just how you value it and how you think they would value your photography.
Yeah, right. It's really interesting that you said about relating it to their music, which is something they understand. I definitely think that that's something that I have an advantage over some other people in, and I'm sure it's the same with yourself again if you've played as well, is that being musicians before we were photographers, we really understand more than the average person would. And, I can, when everyone's rocking up to the shoot and invariably someone's going to be later than the other one, I can stand with the drummer and talk about drums for half an hour. And, I actually do take the time to try and listen to and understand and appreciate the, the record that this band's just put out or whatever. And I actually really like that. And I'm going to, take that on board and think of it in the future, because that's what they understand. Like you were saying, the way you value your own art is the way that no one else is ever going to. And it's the same as a musician, I'm sure.
Definitely. The other bizarre thing about it is that usually photographers are coming from a one-man army, where you do your shoot, you do your organization, you do your calendar, you do your emails, you do your this, you do your that, you do your shoot, you finally get back after a long day because you also worked your part-time job that day or whatever you got going on, saw family, this, that, finally get home, you load your images on, you take a deep breath and you go, right, I got half an hour before I need to sleep, and there's just always something going on, and you've got to just be able to relate that to who you're working with. They're doing the same thing. We're all people. And the only thing is that we both sometimes don't really realize how much we're both putting into what we're putting into. Your drum kit costs X amount of money. Well, so does my 5D. Your lighting kit costs this much. Yeah. Well, so did my stack and all my pedals, all my equipment to, because these guys also need a car and a driver's license, similar to us. And there's this, again, going back to the balancing, there's this middle ground that you need to find with whatever band you're working with. And you got to go, right, what is fair? What can they afford? What can I give them for what I think it is worth? What I think it's worth putting next to my name.
It's so hard.
It's so hard because, oh, dude, I know where you're at and I know where I'm at, and I can say that it gets a bit better, but it's still just as hard as it ever was. But that's the challenge of it. I still enjoy it. That's the difference. Still enjoy it, and I don't see myself giving up anytime soon. Taking breaks, like I said, is the most important part.
That sounds like a really beautiful place to finish right there. I think that was we've come full circle, and I really like that. No, just like,
I don't want to be cliche, but it's sort of sometimes these things fall into place. They
no,
just
it was perfect, because I think it's something that so many people relate to, and I know, like I said, I've been through it many times. Sometimes, I just have to step away. I have to do something for the love and not just because I'm going through the motions.
That too, dude. And I wanted to really thank you for taking the time, I guess, to actually, it was out of the blue for me to contact you. I'm looking to develop myself, like we all are in photography. You know, it's non-stop, like we're just saying. And I'm looking for different avenues. I've finished my studies. What's next? You know, I'm looking around. Where's this going to take me? What's that going to do for me? So on and so forth. And to come back to this, this is new for me, and you know, doing the whole podcast thing, but also with this spin where it's not just about fine art photography, it's actually about what I used to do, which is ages ago for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your format, you know, it's a really cool way for me to almost bridge it back to now bridge to my next, you know,
the next step in the journey.
The next chapter, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, as I've mentioned a few times.
Oh, dude, no worries.
I've
it's been fantastic.
I've followed, especially in the early days, I think in your music photography days, I followed your work very closely, and your band promos have been a very big influence on mine, which is something that is weird to say to another person. But
and it is, but I think it's important to let out you know, what we think and not store it inside. And it's a real honor to have someone like follow your work for so long and to get that feedback. You know, it means a lot. And I've also done the same, man. You know, I might not have been as vocal, but it's really cool to see how your work is developing over time. And I really respect what you're doing. I think just keep going.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Well, for anyone listening, where's the best place to find you online? Where can we send people to view your latest work, what you're up to?
Straight to my website for any sort of series at any given time. I got a store there and stuff like that. We can buy prints. Most importantly, you know, all the social media is all connected through there. Instagram is probably the best way. I'm sort of most active there. That's the newest stuff. But other than that,
yeah, perfect. What's your Instagram handle?
Instagram is at Tim Allen Photo. All social media is all the same, and I look forward to seeing what comes this way or what doesn't.
I look forward to it as well, because I'll be following along.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, perfect, man. That was unreal. I really appreciate it. See you next time.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it again.
Cool. Nice, man. Cheers. If you made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. I hope you got as much out of this episode as I did myself. Tim is he's very wise for his years, and I know this episode just came at a really good time for me, so it's going to hold a special place in my heart. As always, anything that you missed is going to be found in the show notes for this episode. It'll be bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. All the links to Tim's work and anything we mentioned will be up there. I want to take a quick second to remind you that also on my website, I have a free ebook available. It's about everything you need to get started taking band promos on a budget. Basically, a very solid kit to get started in shooting and lighting band promos. It's a free ebook. All you got to do is punch in your email address and I'll send it right to you. You can find it at bigpantsphoto.com/ebook. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.